Welcome to the Museum of Kela Kedoshah Yanina. This is located in the women's section upstairs because we are an Orthodox synagogue. When we have services, the museum is closed. This will tell you about the 2,300-year history of the Jews of Greece from the time they first came on Greek soil, which goes back to the time of Alexander the Great. They were Jews that were brought over from Alexandria, Greek-speaking Jews, what we now call Romaniote Jews. And on the map here you can see where Jews lived throughout Greece, both on the islands and on the mainland. I'm always very grateful to municipalities who share their archival photos with me. And here we have the meat market in Paramithia, which was a place of commerce for both the Jews of Arta and of Yanina. A plaque from the former synagogue in Prevista. Prevista was a very close community and also a Romaniote community, very close to Arta and to Yanina. As you can see, the Jews in Corfu, there was also a Greek-speaking Romaniote community here, and this is a Jewish newspaper from Corfu from 1900. One of the few existing photographs of the White Tower before the fire in 1917, and also a look at different styles of dress, different traditions. Corfu was never part of the Ottoman Turkish Empire. The Jews never wore fezzes, but in Yanina they did. And this is Dr. Kofinas, who is a very famous doctor who opened up he was born in Yanina, but he opened up the first medical clinic in the city of Volos. I try with my volunteers to give them their own section in the museum so that they can tell their family story. And this is Stuart's Corner, very special. His mother was the only surviving member of her family because she was sent to the United States at the age of 5. A very precious photograph here. That is, the young boy in the picture is actually Joseph Eliah, who grew up to be a very famous poet in Greece. And this is the maternal side of his family, the Negrin side. And this is a great photograph because it shows you the change, going from the very traditional costumes to the more Western style. The women still dressed traditionally, but the men were absorbing the Western style. All the clothing was handmade. And you can see how adept the women were in the traditional costumes, but they were not that familiar with the Western garb. The coming of the Sephardim. For 1,800 of the 2,300-year history of Greek Jewry, the population was predominantly Romaniote. There were some Ashkenazim, some French Jews, some Italian Jews that came into Thessaloniki in the latter part of the 14th century. But with the major influx of Sephardic Jews from Spain and the Iberian Peninsula after 1492, the composition of Greek Jewry would change. And most of the Jews would become Spanish-speaking Sephardic Jews, with the exception of those communities west of the Pindos mountain range, such as Yanina, Arta, Prevista, Zakynthos, and part of Corfu. This is a very special exhibit here. These are Megalote Esther. We have a large collection because it was a traditional wedding present that actually was given by the groom's family on the first Purim to the couple. So wealthy family, very elaborate, Megalote Esther, and middle-class family, poor family. It was also the most popular holiday in Yanina, especially for the children. In a world where we lived alongside Muslims rather than Christians for most of our history, we did not feel the need to compete with Christmas. Therefore, children did not receive presents at Hanukkah. They received them at Purim. And there were different family traditions. In my family, Sephardic family from Salonika, we made little novia made out of marzipan, and we would sculpture them as if they were clay. We did not eat at Purim, but we ate dishes like Mati Duchaman, the eyes of Haman, which was inside like a sweet bread, hard-boiled eggs, Hamantash. That's what I was trying to think of. We don't eat that. We do now in the United States, but we never ate it back in Greece. This over here is a very interesting Megillah. It's not the story of Queen Esther. It's the story of the saving of the Jews from Siracusa in Italy. And this was brought to Ioannina by Jews who went from Sicily to Ioannina after the expulsion of Jews in Sicily in 1522. This is Stella's corner over here. Stella is one of my docents, and her family, as most of our families, suffered with the Holocaust. This is her particular section in the museum. This is a Seder plate from Ioannina. This is a Torah crown from the Monastery synagogue that was closed. It was around the corner from us. This is a Seder plate from Ioannina, given to us by the Hajopoulos family in honor and memory of the community. Hajopoulos is an interesting name because it was a family that made a Hajj. Most people don't think of Jews as making a Hajj, but for Jews, the Hajj was to Yerushalayim. And this particular plate would be filled with all the goodies from Passover and carried over the shoulders around the table as they were passing by. And the Ioannina Jews would sing the song about the little goat. It would be Enekatziki fu agoras o pateras muriadi odrata. In my community, un cavratico que makomi padre with 2 pesos, or 2 lavarim. Here we have from the Monastery community, which was around the corner. This is a Torah crown. My great-grandfather came from Monastir, located in former Yugoslavia, now called Vitala. And over here we have one of our most beautiful items. This is a wedding dress. Marriages were arranged in Ioannina. Usually the father or the brothers arranged the marriage for the bridal couple. The young girl really had very little to say about it, but in all likelihood she knew the groom. He might even have been a cousin of hers. So women were married at an early age. Their husbands were a good 10 years older than them, because it was the responsibility of the males in the community to gather together the dowry for their sisters. And in a community with large families, where you might have had 8, 9, 10 children, half of them being daughters, it became a financial burden. It was not uncommon for 2 sisters to live together with 2 brothers, because the money for their matrimonial residence came from the bride's family, and they usually couldn't afford too many private homes for them. The wedding dress was worn by Sophie Negrin in 1890 when she was 14 years old at her marriage to Avram David. This is the exhibit of Stuart Nachmias' family. Stuart has an art exhibit downstairs, so we took the opportunity to add his family's photos up here. His grandparents, Bessie and Sam Nachmias, were an instrumental part of this community, as were his parents, Max and Eva Nachmias. This over here, unfortunately, part of our story is the Holocaust. So most of the people in these pictures did not survive. This is from all over Greece, the island of Rhodes, Ioannina, Athens, Kastoria, Kavala, Thrace, and Athens. The little girl, Gracia Samuels, it always pains me, that picture, because what threat was she? But you have to understand the mentality of the Germans. To the Germans, children were the worst threat because they got married and they produced more Jews. So those that left, those that made the decision to make that hard journey, this exhibit is called Memories. It's about the life they left behind in Greece, their journey over, and what they found here. It was a hard journey, usually 3 weeks in the hull of a ship, but fate would have it that they made the right decision because relatives they left behind would not survive. They came here, they were able to produce families and continue the traditions and the customs. This is the exhibit for Rabbi Matzalach Matzil, who was a rabbi, a shochet, and a moil. We have his circumcision utensils and the names of over 600 young boys that he wrote in his prayer book that he actually circumcised, half in Ioannina and half here in the United States. This is another wedding dress, this time from the city of Larissa. This was given to us by Henry Watkin, and this was his grandmother's dress. The world they left behind. sheep in front of the Acropolis, the port in Salonika, the streets of Salonika with oxen, minarets, marketplaces, a simple life. There's no longer sheep in front of the Acropolis. The picture of the port is very special to me because my grandfather of blessed memory was a Hamali and worked at the port. He went over to Haifa in 1919, left homeless after the fire in 1917, and that's the only reason I stand here, because his whole family was exterminated during the Holocaust. This is one of my favorite photos here. This is the photo of women, all four of them were survivors of the concentration camp from Yanina, and the first babies born in the city of Yanina. It's our success story. Life goes on. They didn't kill us all. Over here, too, is interesting. This is a door knocker with a Mogen David. This came from a Jewish home. Here we have the journey they took, the postcards they sent over to the United States announcing that they were coming. We have ones that are written in Solisreo from the island of Rhodes, ones that on the back would have family photos and written in Greek from Yanina. This is our new exhibit on Sidurim, and there are precious items in here. These were all brought over from Greece. Not all of them made in Greece. We have some that were also manufactured in Livorno, in Italy. Two of the most precious items in here is this illuminated, handwritten Siddur, and this one over here, which is for Purim and the traditional song that was sung by Jews in Yanina at Purim, which is called Kina Glosa. This is the exhibit on Shaddayot. Shaddai means God, Shaddayot is the plural, and they weren't really amulets because they could be created in honor of someone, in memory of someone. The most interesting one that we came across was from the old man Batino, who had no children, and therefore created this for himself so that his name will live on in the synagogue. By the way, we will be having all of these online soon on our website. And this exhibit here is on marriage, the dowries, the belt that was given from the groom's family to the bride on the day of the marriage, but could not be worn until a year afterwards, and in all likelihood her waist was much too big to wear that tiny belt. And the nightgown that she wore on her wedding night, and you have to realize this was a very modest community, so she probably was in a state of shock when she had to walk out to her groom with that transparent nightgown on.